Hi, Shamara. Let me know when you can hear me. It looks like your audio is still connecting, so I'm not sure that you can hear me just yet. Can you hear me now?
I can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, perfect.
Oh,
All righty. I hope you had a Merry Christmas.
I did. I had a very Merry Christmas. How about
Oh,
you?
I'm so glad. I did too. Do you guys have any especially fun holiday traditions, things that you guys usually do, or like things maybe you've kept as traditions from when you were a kid?
Um, um, my husband likes to do the stockings, and you have to kind of
Yeah.
like do them in a certain order,
Oh.
and all of this, and there needs to be an orange at the bottom. It's just like a thing from when he was
Oh,
a kid. I
yeah,
don't know. And
okay.
we do that every year.
Oh,
Um,
that's fun.
that's what we've been doing that for 10 years, and then it's New Year's, so I had to make black eyed peas and collard
Oh,
for
okay.
the day. So
That's awesome.
that's my family's thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I wonder if the orange in the stocking is a New Zealand thing.
I think it is for him. I think that's it's just something that his family would do. Um,
Yeah.
you just have little trinkets in there and you enjoy, and I think it gives the kids something to do until everybody eats and
Is
wakes up and
yeah,
then
is ready for opening the presents from people. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we had stockings growing up, but like it was just random things and they're like new socks or a candy bar, that kind of thing. So I don't think we ever had an orange inside, but I do remember oranges being a thing like in Little Women and like, eras before. So it must be a tradition passed down from, beforehand, like
maybe
through
it could
history.
make sense.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
just made sure these for my son, so I'm
Yeah.
partaking.
Yeah, I think that's really special when you pass down a tradition that you've had and you kind of keep it and you keep passing it on to your kids. So I'm sure I'll do similar things once I have kids too.
Yeah, you kind of make your own traditions, and
Mhm.
and they look forward to it. So
Right. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys had a good time. And I'm glad it sounds like you have some kind of traditional foods that you like to bring in. I know I spent Thanksgiving with my little sister last year, and we growing up had always had like a big Southern feast for a big family reunion for my dad's side. So we would have, like lima beans and butter peas and like the black eyed peas, and we would have like dumplings and fried things and pecan pie and all these, like we had like 7-layer cakes that were passed down from my great grandma, and all these traditional Southern foods that we had, and most of them were grown or hunted by relatives, and it was a really big deal, and we'd have all the cousins get together and extended relatives. So I know it was, really special to do that. So my little sister brought back some of the foods that we had grown up with having, which was really special and fun. So it's something that I definitely have, thought about bringing back myself, in the future if I'm not with family, trying to keep some of those special foods like my granny always did, canning. And, even though I don't have like a scuppernong bush in my yard or anything, I tried like making homemade jam this year and so fun things like that. So I think that's awesome to kind of keep some of those special traditions that you maybe, don't get other people doing for you anymore, but to bring those back is pretty, sentimental and like bittersweet. So that's great to hear that you were able to do some of that, from both your husband's side and your side for your son. That's great. All right. So, as we're diving back in, because we had a little bit of a break for the holidays, do you have anything in particular, like reflections on what we had been working on in the last couple sessions, things that maybe you were thinking of wanting to add into the session today, or just kind of winging it, just kind of whatever we figure out to do today. Any thoughts on what you'd like to work on today?
last time we worked on accents, and that was
Yeah.
really hard and bad in my opinion. But it was fun.
Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes they don't even want it to be necessarily like accurate or good. Sometimes it's maybe for comedy, or they just want like an ambiguous accent, like a generic random accent. And so it doesn't have to be necessarily an accurate accent because they just want the character to have personality. And so they'll say, just some kind of accent, just come up with something fun. And so sometimes it's perfectly fine to just make something up and have it be not necessarily an accurate accent, or maybe it's not 100% an accurate accent, but maybe it kind of has a little bit of a spattering of different things, and that's okay too, because it's more about just creating a fun character. So I definitely thought that you did a really good job with that, and we definitely were on track with, characteristics of certain sounds we were going for. So I was really pleased to hear that. And I think that sometimes if you just give an impression of a certain accent, that's enough that they go, yeah, I just want it to kind of suggest a certain area of the world, but it doesn't have to necessarily be perfect. But then other times they will want it to be more specific. So I think for the purpose of just creating a character and having it have personality, I think you were doing a really good job with that. So I think depending on the context, what you did last time could definitely work for what we're going for. So it just kind of depends on the goal for that particular context. So I thought it was actually pretty good work last time. But I know you want it to be really good, like you have that instinct and that drive for it to be perfect. So hopefully as we move forward and we keep working, we'll get, better and better with that. So then for today, we were working on more character voices last time. We've done a little bit of narration, commercials, and character voices. So I wondered if you had anything in particular. For instance, one of my students, Summer, she has been working through different emotions. So we started with emotions she felt really strong in, areas that she felt like she could express really well in, and really, strengthening those areas. And then now we've kind of navigated to emotions she's less comfortable with, that she's a little more like unsure of herself with, and really strengthening those. So I wondered if you had any ideas about maybe some emotions that you feel like would be good to strengthen your expression of those emotions, or um, maybe like certain types of characters, kind of like we have high school stereotypes, or we have certain like the commedia dell'arte type characters that you tend to see that it's like this type of character is usually always there, like a leading man, a leading woman, the like best friend character, the villain character, those kind of stereotypical characters. So, do you have any ideas of what you maybe think would be a fun thing for us to work on today?
From a from an emotion perspective.
Sure, yeah.
Um, maybe love. Like how do you
Yeah.
convey love with just your
Hmm.
voice? I'm very
Sure.
curious about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a very loving sound with the voice. I love that idea. Yeah. So when we think of love, what would be like defining characteristics of a person who's being loving, or a person who is in love? What would you identify as these are kind of defining characteristics of that kind of a character, a
I feel like
loving
it's gonna
character?
depend on the person, right? If it's like a
Sure.
young, if it's a young person, 30 and below, maybe they would be excited and
Okay.
nervous, but
Okay.
but sweet and sincere, kind of a
Love it. Okay. Good. What about a more mature love, an older love?
older love would be maybe comfortable, warm.
Hmm. Maybe trustworthy or reliable.
Yeah.
Mm. I also think of it like if you think of a character who's giving kind of like tough love, maybe mm, s- so maybe just honesty
Yeah.
or um
Emotion in general, like
mhm.
willingness to show emotion.
Oh yeah, like being very open and maybe more vulnerable with their feelings that they feel able to show more emotion. Whereas a younger person might find that kind of scary. I think back and, you try to be what you think they want you to be a little bit more. Whereas, like being older with my husband now, I think of us dating and on our very first date, we had actually known each other for years at that point, just like a friendly acquaintances. And on our first date, I just said, here's everything anyone could ever say bad about me. Like, here's all the stuff that's taboo topics, like politics,
Wow.
religion, all of it. I was like, here's all of it. And if you don't want to see me anymore, I'm out. Like, don't waste my time.
Wow, that's a game plan. You
And
just
he
lay it
still
out on
liked
the table.
me. He still was like, I still like you. I want to see you again.
Wow. Maybe that was refreshing.
Yeah, and it worked out and we ended up getting married. Um, so I think, but I look back to when I was younger, trying to look a certain way or trying to act a certain way, making yourself more appealing, showing the best side of yourself from the get-go. And I think too, having known him for a while too, I was like, okay, you've known me a long time at this point, so here's, here's all of it. So take it or leave it.
I would say with my husband, I was really shy. I find that if I am attracted to someone, I just turn into a shy, nervous person, and he's the same
Yeah,
way. So we had
that's
difficult
sweet.
communication.
Oh, that's actually really sweet though. So you both were kind of shy
So
and nervous
nerdy. It's
because
the
you
most
both liked each
nerdy.
other. That's sweet. That's
So
actually really sweet that you're so like, timid because you're like, I like you so much.
exactly, like I'm like bold, and open with whoever, and then shy, because oh, I like this person, and and I don't know, you want them to like you back.
Right. Oh, that's really sweet. Yeah, so I think we've got some really good descriptive words here for being a loving person. And I like to consider different types of love too, like a mother's love or a sibling's love or a grandparent's love or, your best friend's love for you. And thinking about the different types of love too, because we have so many different types and we don't have really words to differentiate in English as much as I would like us to have. But romantic love is kind of what we're focusing on here. So when we think of that romantic love, who are some characters that you think of as iconic romantic love characters?
What about like Peanuts, like the little girl who likes, what is it, lime? What is Lucy? No, it's not Lucy. She's the mean one.
Oh, right. We've got right, it's Charlie Brown's little sister is in love with Linus who has the blanket, right?
Yeah, and
So Sally and Linus. Yes. Oh, she's like totally obsessed
yeah, but
with
I
her
get to see
brother's
her
friend.
interacting with
Oh, she's so
laughter.
sweet too. All right. So if we think of Sally from Peanuts, what are some characteristics of her? I think of her as like she's pretty obsessed with him. Like she just will toddle along behind him and just follow him everywhere he goes like a puppy dog.
Yep, very,
Very
very.
devoted.
They devoted and just open, and she shoots her shot every
Hmm.
time.
She is committed. I mean, she is just like, I know what I want and I'm gonna go for it. Like you said, like she's very open. She's determined, I would say. She's like, he is the one for me. Yeah, it's really sweet. Um, so yeah, she's just like she knows.
Go
Like
for it.
he is the fella for her. And she's
And they're gonna
like,
be together.
exactly. She's like, I am in love with this boy. Lucy is in love with Schroeder, but in a very different way, right? Like the piano guy,
Oh yeah. Oh, she's
she's just like picked him. She's like, I like you. You're gonna be my husband one day. Here's how it's gonna be.
very
But I feel
strong.
like,
She's a boss.
yeah, Sally is sweet with her affection for Linus, but Sally is a kind of like bossy
Oh,
and is
Lucy.
like, I picked you, you're gonna be mine. So they're very different in their approach. Um, so let's think about Sally. Um, Sally from Peanuts. So let's see. Um,
Doesn't have to be her. I was just thinking
right,
of.
it could be
Oh,
anybody, but we could maybe see if we can find one. She does have some different like aspects of her personality. So I'm gonna kind of piece together. This is like a conversation. Um, I like her. She's very she's young, she's like a little kid. And so um
like she's more like hero worshiping him. Like
mhm.
can do no wrong.
Yeah. Let's see. Um Well, I found a really fun monologue for her, but it's not about Linus. So she's not the best in school, right?
I don't remember that for some reason. Yeah.
Um, so she's not the best at school. She tends to be very obsessive. Like she'll fixate on something and just get very obsessive with it. She also loves like little catchphrases. Like she'll hear someone say, "Why are you telling me?" And then she's like, "Ooh, I like it." And then she goes around being like, "Why are you telling me?" And she just like gets sassy with it and like takes a phrase and just uses it. Or like no. Like someone says no, and she's like, "Ooh, I like it." No. And then she just starts saying no to everything.
Like a
So
kind of like a little sis, like little sister.
right, yeah. So this monologue is more of her like not being the best student and then being like, ugh, I have to do my homework. Yuck. So it's not necessarily love. But I'm gonna try to find one. But I thought this one was kind of fun. So I was like, we could focus on that. Actually, later in this same script, she has a like really short little part where she talks about Linus. Um, so he's clearly very different than her. She says, "Sweet, brilliant, perfect Linus." And then it's like he's lecturing her because he's older than her, like, and she's like, Mr. Smarty Pants, right? So she's like, "Oh, I love him," but she's like, "Oh, but he can be annoying." So it's kind of funny, because she's like the annoying little sister of Charlie Brown. And he's like, "Ugh, Sally." And she's like, "I want to watch My Little Pony." And he's like, "Ugh, okay." And he's like, leave my friend alone.
I assume that they get married when they get older.
I do too. Yeah. Probably small town, like so we could take a look at that little so it is actually the same conversation, but this is like later in that same conversation. So I assume she'd be like, "Oh, Linus," but then she's like, "Oh, but sometimes he can be annoying."
If she's still human, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that little snippet I think is kind of cute.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to try that little like short chunk? I feel like you could show quite a bit with her, especially because she is so childlike and it's such a, like you were saying, like an idolizing childlike affection.
Okay. Um, all right. So we're going with the 9-year-old here.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what's the point of homework, huh? I mean, seriously. You go to school for 6 hours a day, they make you sit still, listen, and write things down. And then, just when you think it's over, they hand you a stack of papers and say, do this at home? At home. Home is supposed to be where I relax, where I eat cookies and watch cartoons. But no. Instead, I'm sitting at the table staring at this math problem that looks like it was written in some ancient alien language. If train A leaves the station at 3 p.m. and train B leaves at 4 p.m., when will they meet? Who cares? I'm not taking the train. I'm 9. That's my attempt at being a 9-year-old.
Yes, right. I feel like 9 is such an interesting age. It's like when you're first kind of old enough to do things on your own and have some responsibility, like chores that are up to you, and you can go to sleepovers and stuff, but you're still definitely a child. So, kind of a tricky age to navigate. That's so funny. And she's like, I just want to eat cookies and watch cartoons.
Like,
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like whiny a little bit too. You know, like she has some intelligence, but she's just like, blech, math.
he also has a point.
Clearly, she doesn't want to be a mathematician. That's okay. She might surprise us all by becoming a math teacher. I thought you did really well with that. And I feel like for the character voice, I might go just like a little bit higher pitched because she is supposed to be a kid. And I might even make her diction a little less good. Like, what's the point of homework, huh? I mean, seriously, you go to school for 6 hours a day. You know, like a little more like high pitched and like whiny and a little less like 6 hours a day, you know, a little less clear diction, like a little blurrier. They make you sit still, listen, and write things down, you know, like just kind of blurring things a little bit more. Um, but I think generally you definitely got the gist of it and that attitude, you know, like the sassy attitude. I do feel like Sally has some sass to her for sure. So I thought you brought that out for sure. Let's go a little bit farther down. Like maybe she's complaining to her brother and is like, math, yuck. And he's like, Mom told me I have to help you with your homework, so let me, you know? And he's like, you know, and she's like, ugh, you sound like Linus. Education is the key to a successful future. You know, um, and so he's like, yeah, listen to Linus. And she's like, my sweet, brilliant, perfect Linus. But he says
My
this.
homework still sucks.
Yeah. All right. So let's try just that little snippet and show that affection at the beginning, but then put some of that attitude into the latter half.
Sweet, brilliant, perfect Linus. Sally, he says, education is the key to a successful future. Well, excuse me, Mr. Smarty Pants.
I love it. Yeah, if you were saying that to your brother, like, well, excuse me, Mr. Smarty Pants, right? But for Linus, it's like, okay, well, Mr. Smarty Pants. Like the attitude towards it is really different. I love how, you can really hear her point of view towards the person she's speaking to totally changes, right? So it's still like it's teasing. It's like, you're so smart. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, like
I'm not
I'm not
really-
that smart and I still hate math, but you're just so smart. You want to do my homework for me? So I really liked that how it was like a teasing, like you're like, oh, you're so cute. You're so smart. So I thought that came across. That was really nice. I love that. Good. All right. So I actually found a different one. This is like a random one, but it's kind of like it's very romantic for sure. I feel like she's definitely a little bit older because she's talking about love being messy and like it's love isn't like the movies. Um, and she's kind of like, I wasn't expecting it, but then like it just kind of happened, kind of an attitude. So I do feel like this is definitely a more mature kind of love monologue. Um, I was looking for Sally's, so it's a Sally in a different like a play, and then David is the person she's in love with. But it definitely seems like a more mature type of love here. So just go ahead and take a read through first and then kind of, reflect on what kind of character do you think that your character is? And then, how do you think you maybe met David and how do you feel about him? And where do you think you are in your relationship journey? Who might you be talking to in this moment? Those kind of things. So just kind of taking a read through there.
Okay. I think definitely this person is a little older, maybe somebody who hasn't had new love in a long time. Because at
Hmm.
the end, she says, and for the first time in years, so did I. Um, Maybe somebody who, like a divorcee,
Sure. Yeah, maybe.
but
Because it'd be
someone,
kind of like you maybe gave up on love for a while and then it just sort of like snuck up on you, kind of an idea. I like that. I think that's sweet. Yeah, like you weren't looking for it and you kind of had given up on it and you were just living your life, minding your own business. And then he was just kind of there. And it was like, oh, hey, so maybe it's like somebody you're talking to who's like, so how did this happen? Like the last time I talked to you, you were like done with love, you'd given up on it. And she's like, yeah, I don't really know what happened. It just kind of happened. I love that idea. All right, so let's go ahead and try it then with that being the mindset there.
okay. I used to think love was simple, a neat little box tied with a bow, delivered at just the right time. But it's not. It's messy. It's the kind of messy that leaves you breathless and terrified and alive all at once. It's like when I first met him, David. He had this way about him. Not the kind of charm you see in movies, but the real, unpolished kind. The kind that sneaks up on you when you're not looking. He'd smile, and suddenly the world felt lighter, brighter. And for the first time in years, so did I.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So what if we did like just to kind of raise the stakes a little bit, we're just going to tweak the scenario a little bit. What if it's like somebody who cares about you, but they're kind of being overly protective and they're like, "Hey, like you just got divorced. Like isn't this too sudden?" And I really we don't know this guy and like, it seems like you guys are moving really fast. And you're like, when you know, you know. this is different this time, and so you're kind of like defending it a little bit more and trying to convince them that he's great. Yeah, can we try that?
Okay, sure. Um, I used to think love was simple. A neat little box tied with a bow, delivered at just the right time, but it's not. It's messy. It's the kind of messy that leaves you breathless and terrified and alive all at once. It's like when I first met him, David, he had this way about him. Not the kind of charm you see in movies, but the real, unpolished kind. The kind that sneaks up on you when you're not looking. Smile, and suddenly the world felt lighter, brighter. And for the first time in years, so did I. Are you convinced? I don't
I love it. That was really, really sweet at the end too. Like you're just like, it's been years and I just like something's different about this guy. Like it was really beautiful. I love the ending there. Like the shift that happened. That was really sweet. I love that moment. That was beautiful. So it just kind of changes the approach a little bit more and it just sort of like added a little more context, a little more complexity to the approach. And I feel like then on different lines, like you expressed them differently, which was really nice to hear, but you still felt really connected and engaged. Some of the lines felt very similar, but then others felt really different. So I like to do that. Like I'll tweak something about the circumstance and then it changes the approach. And then it's like I'll make new discoveries and maybe I keep some things and I, keep other things and change it a little bit, but it just sort of gives me new insights to the character, who they are, and what they're all about. So that was really nice. I love it. I found this other one um, where it's like clearly he's not perfect because she's like he's infuriating sometimes. Like life is messy. He's cocky sometimes. You know. But like this love clearly makes you feel alive. So I feel like this is kind of a younger love to me because it's like emotional and dramatic and maybe he's a little bit of a bad boy, kind of a thing. But like, man, is it exciting being with him is kind of what I was thinking with this one. Um, like maybe you feel like your character, because she describes herself as like more than, just a girl kind of a thing, and he makes her feel like more than just a girl. So maybe she's not popular and maybe she's not, she doesn't see herself as anything special, like a really good athlete or like super smart. She's just kind of average and kind of fades into this behind the scenes. But, maybe he's like a little bit of a rebel and a bad boy and he makes her feel special kind of a thing. Um, and so maybe someone's like, why would you date him? And, this is what she says. And she's like, he makes me feel special. So I thought this might be a fun one because it's like the last one was more of like later in life. Maybe she's a divorcee, and then this one feels a little more like youthful to me.
okay. Um, he had this infuriating way of making everything feel bigger. Like life was this great, messy, beautiful thing that we're lucky to have, even for a moment. He was funny and cocky and so alive, even when he wasn't. And he made me want to believe that maybe, just maybe, some infinities bigger than others. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but he made me feel like I was more than just a girl.
Nice. Yeah. So I like how you kind of got a little bit more like riled up at certain points, and then there were moments that felt just like very bare bones simple, but it was like essential truths came out in those moments. So for this character, um, it's like interesting, she talks about like how we're lucky to have what we have even for a moment. So it feels to me like she doesn't think she'll have him very long. Yeah. Like maybe he's older and he's going to go away to college without her. Or, maybe it's like, oh, he is from this like really well-known family and he's going to get like good jobs or like internships or, go off without me kind of a thing. And maybe I'll get left behind, but I'll still be thankful for what we have. So I thought that was kind of a thing to bring out more was that this might be temporary and she's okay with that because she's just thankful to have, been in the sunshine of his love for a short time. And even if she ends up being in his shadow later. Um, that maybe she feels like, yeah, I might get left behind, but I'll still be glad for what we have right now. Like maybe her mom or someone is like, hey, like, he's from this really rich family and you're a nobody. And, his family's going to expect him to go off and do great things. And he's going to leave you behind in this little town. And her being like, and that's okay you know because I felt like those were kind of some unique elements about this monologue that are really different from the others in the midst of her being in love. Like there are some other nuances we can bring out. Yeah, so it's very like bittersweet. Think there can be moments of just like pure bliss and like pure unadulterated affection, but then moments of like, yeah, like I might lose him and I know that, and I'm gonna hold on to these memories for the rest of my life if I do, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is giving summer love.
Yeah. Yeah. Summer love. I love that. Yeah. All right. Good. So let's try it again.
Okay. Um, he had this infuriating way of making everything feel bigger. Like life was this great, messy, beautiful thing that we're lucky to have, even for a moment. He was funny and cocky and so alive, even when he wasn't. And he made me want to believe that maybe, just maybe, some infinities are bigger than others. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but he made me feel like I was more than just a girl.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely got more of that summer love, temporary feel. That was really nice. Like, maybe her family lives in a resort town or something, but they're the people like waiting tables and bartending and, lifeguarding and taking care of the people who are like the rich people who come here to vacation in the summertime. And people are like, yeah, like you shouldn't be messing with guys like him. And she's like, well, it's a thrill while it lasts. And she's like, it's worth it anyway. So that I feel like definitely came across more that time. That was great. Nice. So then this next one, I feel like could actually be kind of the opposite because it feels to me like her family really doesn't approve of the guy. So like she could be the one who maybe is like from the, like better family and like goes to a private school or something, and then she's dating like the public school boy that her family doesn't approve of or something, or maybe he's gotten in trouble too many times, like, oh, he's a bad influence, like we're good like church going Christian people and you're a nice girl and you get good grades, and he like smokes behind the bleachers and rides a motorcycle or kind of kind of a thing because it's very like parents are disapproving and there's drama. And she's like, but they don't know him like I do, kind of a thing. It kind of feels like that to me, like that whole like disapproving family kind of a thing. Like Footloose with like the girl who's the daughter of the preacher family, and then like, the new guy in town from the city who wants everyone to dance, and they're like, no. Dancing brings alcohol and drugs and all the other bad things for our children, kind of a thing. Um, And little do they know their daughter is playing chicken with trains in the background. So for a thrill. So so it feels kind of like that to me, like, like the daughter whose parents are like, no, 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 don't date that boy. He's bad news. Or, maybe he's a nice guy, but he's just like from a family that like his dad is maybe his dad got into trouble with the law back in the day, and her parents are like, oh, we know his family and they're not good people. And oh, he's like from the wrong side of the tracks or whatever. Feels kind of like that. And she's like, but I know him in a different way than they do, and they just don't see him the way I do. So it feels a little bit like that to me. Like maybe she's I don't know, what's that like show and like the OC, the old one with like the boy who had gotten into trouble because his brother stole a car and he was with him, and then the attorney's like trying to help him, and then they take him into their house or whatever. I don't know, but he's like a bad boy, because he's been arrested and he's got like to do stuff for court and whatnot, and then like the like rich girl next door is into him, and it's like, oh, you can't like him, you have to date the quarterback or whatever. Like that kind of a feel, like if people were talking to her and she's like, you just don't know him, like he's not like that kind of a thing. And so yeah, like she's going to cotillion and he's like, and I wear the same t-shirt every day. So, and like going for meetings with my, community service director and, you know, taking orders from a judge because my brother got me into stealing cars when I was young. So that kind of thing. Um, so that whole thing where it's like, her being like, you just don't know him like I do, kind of an attitude. So it feels kind of like that, where it's like, he maybe is just not from the best circumstances in life, and she knows him more personally, and people were like, oh, he's bad news, and she's defending it a little bit more. So let's try it.
Okay. What about if we just try it like this? Why does it have to be so complicated? I mean, we're just two people who fell in love. That's all it should be, right? But no. Instead, I've got my mom breathing down my neck about how he's not the kind of boy for me. And my dad, but it's not just them, is it? It's the whispers at school, the side eyes from people I thought were my friends. But when I'm with him, none of that matters. The noise, drama, fear, it all just fades away.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it could be like your best friend or something being like, "Hey, what's up with you with this guy? I know like, you've been dating this other guy for years, and then like you guys break up and you're hanging out with this guy, and like none of us know him, and like he has holes in his jeans, and he didn't buy them that way," and being like, "So what's up with you?" And she's like, "Look, like here's where I'm at, and maybe I just don't see things the way I used to." And like, I get it. I get that people aren't going to understand, but, I think he's great, and I just don't care what they think? So, yeah, like it could be more of a like going against the flow, like against the current, and being like that time where she sort of matures and is like, I don't just do what I'm told anymore, like what I've been taught to do, like I'm seeing the world differently. And, the things I thought I knew are not what I knew. And I'm choosing to, maybe go a different route. And that's okay. Good. I found one more that I thought was like very vulnerable. So it seems like maybe this person is kind of a mess, but then like someone keeps trying to love them and like be good to them, and they're like, "Hey, like I can wait as long as I need to." But they're like just there for you. Um, and you're like, "I'm kind of scared to let you love me." Kind of is where it's at. So this is a like very different scenario, but I thought it was kind of an interesting one where like maybe you're starting to fall for them too, but like maybe they're like, "Hey, I'm in love with you and I'll wait as long as it takes and I'll be whatever you need me to be until then. And you're just like, I don't get you. I don't understand why you would be there for me. I don't understand why you like me. But like maybe they're kind of chipping away at your cracks, in your armor, kind of an idea. And you're maybe starting to see like how good they are and how maybe you could be different with them is kind of the idea, I think. Um, and you're like, maybe I'm okay being the mess that I am with you, and maybe you'll help me clean it up a little bit. Or maybe not, and maybe you'll just love me anyway, and that's okay too. So I like it. It seems to me like maybe this person has been hurt in the past, or they feel like kind of undeserving of love for whatever reason. Maybe just like their upbringing, or, maybe they've been hurt by a love in the past, or, maybe they've kind of failed in life and they feel guilty and like they're unlovable. For whatever reason, they feel really scared to open up to this person. Um, yeah. So I thought we could maybe try this one because it's a very different scenario. But you had mentioned vulnerability earlier, and I feel like this is a really vulnerable moment. So I thought we could maybe try it and see what we do with it.
Okay. Uh, all right. Let's go with okay. I never asked for your kindness or your patience, but you keep giving it anyway. And sometimes I wonder if maybe I've been pushing you away because I'm scared. Scared that if I let you in, you'll see all the messy parts of me I try so hard to keep hidden. But then I see you standing there just being you, and I think maybe it wouldn't be so bad to let someone like you see the mess.
Yeah. I really liked the way that you slowed down. You put a little bit of like a vocal fry in there, like really low and deep and that kind of gravelly, gritty kind of a sound, which I think added to the feeling of like I'm exposing like the deepest parts of myself and those imperfect parts. I think that added a lot to that feeling. It was really nice. I also really liked how you used dramatic pauses. And I know that the punctuation kind of gives those to you, but you really like milked them and it worked beautifully. And you even kind of added a couple more, like, or you draw out a word and sort of like you're thinking about what you're gonna say next. And I thought that worked really nicely. That was really, really good. Um, but also it felt like just the tiniest bit flirty there at the end, which I thought was really nice. So it felt like you were kind of scared, for the majority of it, but then and it also felt like a teensy bit annoyed to me at the very beginning, like you just don't give up, do you? Kind of a thing. But then like the vulnerability and the fear came out. And like being really nervous and, feeling like, you're scared of being rejected maybe and showing this part of yourself. But then right at the end, it felt a little bit flirty to me, which I really liked. I thought that was really nice. It was really sweet. So we see that kind of evolution. Like maybe you're a bartender or a waitress or something, and this guy comes in every day to get a cup of coffee, or like, a beer after work just so he can see you kind of thing. And he's like, I can wait as long as it takes. And it's not like stalkery creepy. It's just like, hey, I'm here. If you ever change your mind, I just love to see your smiling face or your frowny face, whichever. I just like to see you, you know? And this is you kind of like caving in, a little bit, giving him a little bit of, wiggle room. Like maybe he overheard someone say it's your birthday, so he like brought you a birthday present or something, and you're like, dude, what? Or he like, you know, found out that your lawnmower broke. So he like mowed your lawn while you were at work and surprised you, and somebody like ratted on him and told you it was him. Or your car breaks down and he's like, well, that's okay, I'll give you a ride home, and I'll tow it to the company down the road or whatever with my truck. We'll hitch it up. And you're like, why are you so nice to me? But you're like, maybe I can show you, some of the truth of who I am. So I think, it's kind of sweet. It's pretty sweet. So I really liked the evolution there. So all of these have some of those elements of what we were talking about before with love. Like they can be excited or nervous or sweet, sincere, comfortable, warm, trustworthy, reliable, honest, open, vulnerable, shy, nervous, devoted, open, determined, committed, right? We had all these different words. So love can look like a lot of different things. And I feel like we did a really good job of having, different scenarios and expressing some of those different aspects of what love can look like. So I thought that was really good. That was really fun. So maybe that would be a good approach, is kind of picking an emotion each week to express. Like anger can have lots of nuance. It can be agitated, infuriated, perturbed, you know? It can be all kinds of different nuances of things, right? You could be irritated, you could be fed up, you could be um livid, it could be outraged, offended. It could be so many different types of anger, right? Sadness could be feeling kind of like melancholy or feeling like overwhelming grief, different types of feelings. Happiness could be a sense of awe and wonder, satisfied, content, overjoyed, exhilarated. You can have all these different types of nuances of those feelings. So I think it would be kind of fun to choose an emotion and then explore that more thoroughly. So that might be a fun thing to do next week. What do you think?
That sounds good.
Great. Awesome. Awesome work today, Shamara. I'm gonna let you go because I'm sure your kiddo is wanting to be tucked in by mama. And who knows, you
New
might be
Year's,
counting down the.
Dragon.
Oh, you're doing the countdown. I love it. Watching the ball drop or nice. I love it. So you guys are gonna have some time together. Oh, that's sweet. Hopefully he had a nap because he's a little guy, right?
He's 8. We'll see.
Okay.
Hopefully have a
Okay. He's a good age then. Your picture though, he's like a little fella. So
Oh
on
yeah,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
Zoom, so I was kind of because you look exactly the same in the picture. So that's how I was envisioning him. Like toddling in to see you.
Nope, nope. That was a while
Oh.
ago. That was during 2020. But we took.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, so he is quite a bit older now. I get like, it's like time froze for me and that COVID period didn't happen. So I'm just like, how am I this old? Like, I just had a birthday and I'm like, should I not be like 5 years younger than I am? Like, it just feels weird. Like,
2020 four just flew by. I have no idea what
yeah.
happened this year. It's
Right.
scary.
It's like, where did the time go? But you look exactly the same to me as you do in that picture. So, but that's sweet. Yeah, I get it. I think he's old enough to count down with you then. That's fun. Well, I hope you guys have a good time and have fun doing the countdown and getting your New Year's kiss and
You're
whatever your
young.
traditions
Be
are.
out.
So.
Are you going out partying?
I'm not. I'm just gonna hang out with my husband and my neighbors that like live next door and my pups and those, I don't know. I just turned 36, so I feel like I don't know, like I'm more content to just hang out with like my loved ones and my pups and but
Well, you have a baby face. 36 is still young in comparison to me. So, so I feel it. So I feel like you should be
Oh,
out having
thanks.
fun. So
Well, you look young. Like, I look at you and I'm like, you look to me like you're still in your 20s. So I don't know how old you
you're
actually
supposed to
are,
say that.
but you look
Everybody
really
is
young. So
supposed to.
I feel like pretty much from, I don't know, maybe like 24 to like 40. I can't tell the difference. I'm like, you just look the same. And then it's like at some point, like in the 40s, I'm like, okay, now you kind of start to look a little older. But there's like this couple decades with women that I'm like, you just look like a beautiful, strong young woman to me. Like I can't tell the
I
difference.
appreciate that, but I am, we'll just say I'm closer to 50 than I am 40. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I
You
was an
look
old
so
mom.
good.
Thanks.
I would have guessed, like, honestly, like, you told me your kid is
Like,
8,
seen
but
it
I'm
more.
like, I would not have guessed you were more than like 28. Like, truthfully, you look so good.
Am I paying you? You don't have to be nice to me, but I
You do,
appreciate
though. You look beautiful. So, age is just a number.
it.
My mom has aged very well. Like, people see her and think that she's my sister legitimately,
I
like,
believe it. You have
relatively
beautiful
often.
skin, so you had to get it from somewhere.
When I was younger, I like hated it because I think part of it, like I've talked to a lady who gives me facials every few months or whatever, and like she's like, well, you have oily skin, and she's like, so you're gonna look young. But I'm like, oh man, when I was younger, I had like all the acne and like man, and when I was younger, I had headgear in middle school, so I had like braces in high school and like acne and like frizzy hair. I've gotten the frizz under control now, but I'm like, man, looking back, I'm like, I was like Anne Hathaway before the princess transformation.
Well, you're doing well now. You know what to do. Things weren't right back in the day. They
Yeah.
just didn't appreciate curls.
Yeah.
I don't know. They just nothing was right, and now finally, I
Yeah.
think that they're trying to teach people,
Hmm.
how to do better with what they have.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree. So, and I think life just gets easier. Like middle school, high school is just, I don't know. I watch those shows where people are like, high school is the time of our lives and like living it up. And I'm like, no, it just gets better from there.
It's kind of
I
nice being
truly
an
feel
old
like
lady.
every year I'm like, I get happier every year of my life. Like as I age, I'm like, I am more content and more thankful and feel more connected and like have better quality, close relationships and things. So, yeah, I feel like it gets better.
I I agree.
Oh, I love that. Well, you have a very happy new year. I will see you in 2025 next Tuesday.
Next year. Yeah.
Have a wonderful time counting down. You did great today. It was really fun. Keep
Thank
up
you
the
very
good
much.
work, and I'll see you soon. Bye, Shamara.